listening to the Saluki Gamescast. This is episode 140 for Wednesday, April 8th, 2026. My name is Justin Young. Joining me as always is Mario Sanders. Mario, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you? That was a very robotic response, but
Yeah, that was... Mario sounds like he's currently being held hostage.
everything is fine. I'm happy to be here.
Mario, blink twice.
Blink in Morse code to send messages. That doesn't really work on an audio podcast. Also joining us again is Junara Quinn-Miller. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's that time in the semester. I'm tired. I'm going to be honest. I'm not playing a lot of games.
You said it. It's that time of the semester.
True.
Oh, it so is.
It's like our Pee-wee's Playhouse. Everybody screams when somebody says it's that time of the semester. Yeah, it's that time of the semester for you.
Yeah. Let's pretend that the semester doesn't always feel like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because you're teaching one or two classes?
Two classes.
Two classes, and then you're also taking classes currently. Okay. How many classes are you taking?
I'm taking 3 classes right now. I'm taking 2 over in Wiggs, and I'm taking 1 over here with Dr. Gingrich Philbrook. Love him.
What are you taking in Wiggs?
Oh, I'm in Sex and Scandal with Dr. Hammer, and I love that class so much.
Is that the film class?
It is.
Yeah.
And
okay. Cool.
It's delightful, and I may or may not be pulling my hair out trying to make a film for that class. We'll see how that goes. And I'm also in intersectional queer theory with Dr. Hammer as well, and I adore that class too.
They're really great as a professor.
They're so wonderful.
It is very much that time of the semester. 3 classes and teaching 2 is quite a workload. Like that's difficult to juggle that. Particularly because like this is your second semester teaching, I believe you said. Yeah, that's a lot. So I can imagine it being very overwhelming.
I find I can just about handle all of the like things that I have to do for work in school, and then it's the like, oh, but I want to apply to that conference or try and get into that paper or into that publication or whatever, and that's where I find myself going insane.
Right.
Yep.
Mario, I have to check in with you. We are on the road to WrestleMania.
It's true. It's next weekend.
Which seems to be this year particularly filled with potholes and like under construction lanes that just abruptly end. It has not been a very smooth ride to WrestleMania
this year. I heard that Cena had a bad out, that he went out in like not much fanfare.
I don't know. I thought his retirement match was fine, but people were not very happy with it.
I had heard that they had fumbled the story leading up to the retirement.
That's an opinion people have.
Oh, okay, Mario.
So how do you feel as we head to WrestleMania?
I'll be honest, I haven't watched the last few weeks of like Raw just because of how busy I was with like the show and rehearsals and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a little bit behind. I think I'll definitely watch probably this week's episode of Raw tomorrow. We usually watch on Thursdays.
Do you have a party that watches?
Just a couple of friends.
Oh, that's fun.
But I think the one that I'm most interested in seeing is one of the women who is like the number 1 contender for the women's championship is now in concussion protocol.
Oh.
Because of encounter that
They bumped heads.
Yeah.
Right?
So the champion kind of ran in and pushed her into another woman, and the smack of their heads, the sound of the smack of their heads was like grotesque. And she posted on social media just this massive knot like on her forehead. So hopefully, she'll be cleared and able to compete and be okay.
I saw that on social media first, the knot, and I was like, what happened to her? And then when you actually see what happened to her, you're like, it's not funny, but it's like, of all the stuff you do, this is how you got like physically hurt in a way.
Both of them, the 2 who hit heads, are both in concussion protocol. They both had, like I said, these massive knots on their forehead.
I hope they turn out okay.
Yeah, hopefully. Some friends and I were talking like, there's definitely some if for whatever reason she is unable to go, there are some cool directions that they could go in terms of replacing her that would like, I think, bolster her storyline as well coming back.
And what wrestler is this again?
Her name is Liv Morgan.
Liv Morgan.
And so we'll see. But yeah, I know all this stuff. Maybe it's because my like off period was during like CM Punk's like height of his popularity. Right. I have no affinity for him. And so like all the things he does, I'm just kind of like, all right, man, I'm not the biggest fan. So
I did see a clip. I guess this was from Raw Monday night.
Yeah.
And it was, and people were like sharing this on social media, and it's him calling out the pricing of the tickets, which we've talked about off air.
Yeah.
That, you know, the price of WrestleMania tickets are astronomical. People can't afford them. And so they've had trouble selling tickets. And in this clip, he's calling out, like, I guess the like head of TKO, the owners of the WWE now. And people were like sharing this and going, yeah, see, CM Punk is like on our side. He's speaking for the little guy. And I was like, you do know, like, this is all like a work, right? Like, this is like he's being told what to say.
Yeah. I mean, like, he might genuinely believe it. And I think like considering what I do know about him, I'd like to think that he probably does believe that and would like to see those prices. Like, there can be some shoot elements to it, but when WWE is tweeting out, he's doing a pipe bomb, like, come on, y'all.
Yeah, like the idea that he's completely rogue and they have no control over him. Like there's a camera there filming him.
Yeah, like
right?
I couldn't just cut the...
I mean, I always like that. I always loved that during like the WCW era where they're like, nobody knows what the NWO is up to, or nobody knows where Sting is. And then like a camera cuts and it's like, there's a cameraman there.
He's in the rafters. Yeah. The cameraman was just going for a walk. Just a normal angle that they shoot at.
Right. And, like, I mean, that's great, right? For little kids, that completely sells it. I'm just always bewildered by adults who are buying into that aspect of it.
Sure.
Right? Like,
yeah, I know. I saw something that was like
the production aspect. I think that's the thing that gets me.
Yeah, about WWE is planning on lowering tickets after this, and it's like they were always going to lower the tickets. This just gives them a reason to play into a storyline for it.
There's a creator on YouTube who talks about it. He's easily my favorite person that talks about wrestling, Super Eye Patch Wolf.
Yeah, I watch a good amount of his stuff. Ryan watched a good amount of
I love Super Eye Patch Wolf. His video, The Unreality of Pro Wrestling, is like one of my favorite gateways into understanding wrestling, even a little bit.
It's very good.
Yeah. It's a phenomenal video.
Yeah. Like, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, but yeah, it's next week and
next weekend, not this weekend.
Yeah, not this upcoming weekend, but the following weekend, the 17th and 18th.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes me a little sad is I used to always, subscribe to the network or Peacock around this time just so I could watch WrestleMania, even if I wasn't watching anything.
Is it on Peacock or Netflix now? I thought it was on Netflix.
Well, it used to be on Peacock.
The pay-per-views used to be on Peacock. They're on ESPN now. The ESPN subscription is like $30 a month.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
So I think some friends and I are probably going to like group fund it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting back to that $60 per pay-per-view event pricing, which, makes it a little less enticing.
Yeah.
For an individual, I would think.
For sure.
Yeah, all right. I did real quick. I went to see a movie this weekend. It's the new movie with Robert Pattinson and
The Drama.
Zendaya,
it's so good. I loved it.
The Drama.
I'm sorry. I got excited.
That's okay. Anyways, I would tell people before they go see that movie, maybe read a review that reveals some of what that movie is actually about, because I can see that movie being very triggering to some people. And
I could imagine people walking out.
And none of that is revealed in the trailers, which
I think that's on purpose.
I think it is. I just think that's problematic for a lot of people, potentially.
A reviewer that I watched, I think Alonso Duralde had described it as that it had to be a little bit in bad taste to justify what the movie ends up being.
Yeah. I mean, I think they very intentionally are misleading people about that movie.
Yeah.
The
more that you've seen the marketing around it, the less that you're expecting what it's going to be, I would say.
Yeah. I think that will be problematic for some people when they end up watching it. So I would just warn people going into that movie that that movie is not what they expect it to be. And that happens quite often with movie trailers.
I thought it was a good movie, though. I liked it. I thought they swerved away from doing something much better. I expected for Pattinson to actually have the same secret, which I think would have made the movie a 9 out of 10 for me, when it was really a 7.
All right. Well, why don't we move into what we've been playing? Mario, why don't we start with you? What have you been playing?
Sure. So this was last weekend. There's a game that friends have been playing for a while now called The Bazaar that I've kind of always, that I've never been interested in getting. It's like not a roguelike, but like a shop-based auto battler, similar to like I guess like a TFT or it's Team Fight Tactics or like Hearthstone, but it cost $20, and I never.
That was a real DBD moment.
It was, and
I
was that was going through my head. Like, I better say what we're talking about here. And it was half off, and they, like I said, they really like this game, so I ended up picking it up, and it's a lot of fun. I've done a handful of runs, and I'd say if those kinds of games are of interest to you, if those kinds of games are ones that you enjoy, I'd say it's definitely worth checking out. I think there might be a demo going right now, or at least there was over the weekend. I don't know if there still is.
The name of the game is Bazaar?
The Bazaar.
The Bazaar.
Like the shop.
Yeah.
Bazaar.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I said, it's a cool game. There's a few characters. I think where I could see myself easily falling off of it is just, so you get 3 like default characters, and then every other character that you want to add is like $20, which feels like a lot. I think there's like 4 characters, and so like each of them are $20. It's not like $20 and get all of them. So that's where
you're spending $80 in addition to the base price of the game.
Yeah.
I love auto battlers, but the way they get monetized is brutal.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason this game was free for a while.
Yeah.
And then they put it on Steam, and it was half off, so it was $10. So that's where I ended up picking it up.
$90 is quite the price for a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you don't have to have those other characters, but obviously they add variants to like how you can play it. And
sure,
does having a character that you just can't click on unless you pay money not ruin a game for you? It ruins a game for me so fast.
It definitely can.
It's like, oh, that immersion that you were trying to build, we're gonna shatter it real fast.
I think particularly like if you start, facing those characters, because each character has their own like pool of items as well that they can get. So like there are certain builds that you just will likely never be able to do unless you buy those characters. But all that said, like I said, that is unfortunate, but ultimately not something that you have to spend money on. The thing that I've enjoyed most about it is it feels like there are a lot of different ways that you can build a board and still feel strong. I guess one of the things with like Hearthstone is Hearthstone ultimately at some point feels like I'm just trying to do the same thing every time.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's a formula.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, the strength about Hearthstone is that is random. Like who your creatures attack is random, whereas this is set. So you know there's a like an add-on for Hearthstone where you can see like the probabilities. So like if you ran this 100 times, you would win this 60% of the time, you would lose it 30% of the time, you would draw 10% of the time.
That sounds like a really handy add-on.
Based on the randomness and like who and how you go about attacking. This game, it is not like everything goes on like a cooldown. So if you were going to win, you were going to win. From how I understand, like I guess not 100% of the time. There's like some slight randomness, but not to the extent that something like a Hearthstone or a Teamfight Tactics has. But that's the game that I've played a decent bit. I'm sure I'll play it more. I don't know if I'll get as into it as some other friends did, but it's a cool game. And if you, I don't know, I think it's still on sale, but if it goes on sale again, which I'm sure it will, and those kinds of games are of interest to you, I would give it a recommend.
That's something that I will pick up if it goes on sale. If you see it, give me a heads up.
Sure.
I'm gonna wish list it now actually, because it's interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I think I'm always interested in the pricing model for those sorts of games. You know, like when you talk about $80 in DLC, like, okay, well, it's a whole new character that plays, I assume plays different. Like this isn't just a skin that they're selling you. This is something more significant to it. But I always think about like those, have you ever looked at those train games on Steam where there's like multiple thousands of dollars worth of DLC for the games, and like somebody must be buying that stuff or they wouldn't keep producing it.
That I always think of like the trucker simulator games.
Right,
like each state is a DLC.
Right. Yeah. American Truck Simulator. Yeah. And I always think that's like really fascinating because I am never going to get into one of those games that much, but obviously it does sell to people. Whereas that's sort of a turnoff to me for a game like that. If it was like, hey, the base game's $10, plus you can get these additional 4 characters for $20.
That to me would be reasonable.
Yeah.
But to have it being $20 per character is feels a little nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that the other one that I had played, I guess just yesterday, I know I had mentioned this is part of the month of games that I play with friends, is the Game Boy Advance version of Lilo and Stitch. And I mostly bring it up because I didn't realize this when I first talked about it. The game was made by Digital Eclipse, but it is...
I know this name. Where do I know this
not
name?
very good.
Oh, oh God.
It's not... I respect what they're trying to do. They've done all the
all the compilations. In fact, I'm going to be talking about a Digital Eclipse game in just a moment.
Yeah, I respect what they're trying to do. So they tried to make the Stitch sections like a Metal Slug game.
Right. Yeah.
And the Lilo sections are like a stealth Metal Gear Solid type of thing. So like I said, I respect what they're trying to do, but it's just ultimately a little janky.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know you love that movie. I love that movie. I had the friends who were playing it, like multiple of them, I guess have never seen it before.
What?
So the game takes place, it's like a completely side story. It's like after the events of the movie. But now I'm like, shoot, we might just have to like find a time to watch the movie because how have you never seen this?
Are these friends like around your age?
Yeah, I think one, he's a little older, maybe... I don't know, late 30s. Yeah. So like not dramatically older or dramatically younger. We're all within probably 5 to 7 years of each other.
Because that movie would have come out when you were around like 10 or so?
Came out what, like 2001?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 8.
Oh, okay.
7 or 8.
Okay. So yeah, like that, I feel like that would have been like the perfect time. Like for your generation, most children would have seen that. Yeah. Either in theater or on video later.
Yeah, this friend, I think he was born in 87, so he might have been like 14, okay. So maybe like a little. Yeah. I could have seen him being like, that's a kid's movie, but
right.
That one is an exception that's worth seeing regardless.
It's a beautiful movie. Yeah. It's so good. That one was my childhood.
All right.
Yep, those are the things I'll talk about.
Junara, what have you been playing?
I've not been playing a ton of games. I've been playing a little bit more Absalom when I can get time. Haven't played it in a minute, but oh my god, the Vampire Crawlers demo, I love it so much. I'm both super excited and dreading when that game finally releases.
It's like later this month, isn't it?
I know, and that's rude of them. How dare I have finals to finish? That's messed up, dude.
I think that's a situation where you do not buy that game until after finals because it'll just be a time suck.
I know, but also like it's just enough of a mindless game that I can like think things while I'm playing it. Oh, it's dangerous.
I remember one semester I was teaching at a different university when Uncharted 4 came out. And I waited like the 2 weeks until the end of the semester to buy that game because I just knew that game would be my entire week if I let myself buy it any earlier.
Just like, sorry kids, I'll be in next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been playing a little bit of the Hearthstone. I talked with Scott recently about it. I need to play some with him.
Yeah,
followed up with him yet.
Scott loves that game. He plays Hearthstone all the time.
I really, really like Hearthstone. I love Battlegrounds. Battlegrounds is really fun. I like a good auto battler.
That's the one that he and I have played a good amount of Battlegrounds together, yeah.
Dude, we need to get it on a group, please.
Yeah, sure.
I need friends. Also, like, if you want another person to make the ESPN thing cheaper, I will join you for wrestling. I need social.
I think that's interesting that Hearthstone is still so big. I don't hear that game get talked about.
Oh, it's a piece of trash, and I hate it.
I mean, I feel like that game, like it had its moment. It was like it was all anyone was talking about for a few months, and but even for like that first year or two, you heard a lot as they were like rolling out new things, and I feel like it doesn't get talked about a whole lot anymore.
Yeah, I think it's got its niche fan base. Those people are pretty devout to an extent. They're going to play the new season when the new season comes out, and I think they're just fine with that. They've settled into this is our consistent sort of like player base.
Well, it sort of reminds me of an MMO at this point, right? Like something like Star Trek Online, which you never hear talked about, but like that's still out there. There are still people, paying money and playing that game month to month. It's always interesting, those sorts of games. That audience didn't move on entirely.
Yeah, I've only ever engaged with the Battlegrounds version of it. Well, since like the first time it came. When it first came out, I think I played in the original mode, but since then I've only done the Battlegrounds mode.
One thing I'll say for it is that Standard is stunningly playable at the moment, or at least stunningly accessible. Right now they have like a thing going on where I think the last 2 expansions, you can just use any of the cards from it.
Cool.
As long as this expansion is the main expansion, this new like Cataclysm set. It's got like Deathwing or whatever. I don't know. I know some Warcraft lore, but it's all from Warcraft 3, not WoW.
I know nothing. So,
all right,
but it's nice and accessible right now. Standard's not fun, but it's not trash.
No, I mean I think making it accessible is the best thing that they can do.
It is very important, like because this is my pitch. Mario, you could play Standard.
Oh well, no, I won't do that. But I mean, I compare it to something like Magic, where current.
I long
we don't need to
for
get into that,
Arena to be anywhere near as accessible and financially approachable as Hearthstone. Oh my god.
Yeah. So, no, I mean that's great that Hearthstone is accessible.
Yeah. If Arena was half as accessible, I'd be putting money into Arena. But it just feels rude at this point.
All right. Is that everything?
Yeah, that's all I've been playing, honestly.
All right. Cool. So I'm still playing some of the things I've talked about previously, but the one new thing I fired up, I finally picked up the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind game. This is what I was mentioning, made by Digital Eclipse, or published more specifically by Digital Eclipse. This is actually made by the Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge team. And it is very obvious once you start playing the game, the similarities between the two. So this came out 2 years ago, the end of 2024. And I just never picked this up. It is a side-scrolling beat-em-up. And it is... Okay, so a little bit about my experience first. I have maybe seen 2 episodes of Power Rangers ever. I'm not a Power Rangers fan. When OJ was on the show, they and I would talk about how there's that like split where they were really into Power Rangers, and I was just slightly older enough that I wasn't super into Power Rangers. And so
OJ?
The issue becomes...
Former PhD student.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So, you know, the issue becomes like, I don't have the like love and familiarity with all the characters and the storylines and everything, but this is sort of taking that original first series of Power Rangers, the very first original when they launched, and it's sort of tying it into a time travel story to kind of go back to those characters and everything. So there is some story of what I've played so far. That after you get past the setup, the story doesn't really matter a whole lot, as you can probably imagine. But it is a sequence of stages of you going left to right, beating up random people. And, you know, like, it is the Ninja Turtle games. It has that sort of look to it. It has that sort of combat to it. I think it plays really well. I think the thing I kept thinking was some similar titles that have come out recently, like the G.I. Joe one and some of the others that we've talked about on the podcast, which are just not very good and don't play very well. And this actually plays pretty good.
Did that Marvel one come out?
Yes.
Okay. Did you play that?
No.
Okay. I didn't remember if you played it or played a demo or we just talked about it. But
What was the Marvel one?
Oh, I did.
Side-scrolling Marvel game?
I did play a demo. That's right. Okay. I did play the demo of it, but like the demo was so kind of limited. I couldn't tell. You know what I played of the demo I thought was interesting, but I wasn't blown away by it, I guess, at the time. Anyways, so the thing that really kind of makes this game interesting, or made it interesting to me, was it has the standard, you know, side-scrolling beat-em-up levels, but then it'll occasionally vary that up. So, you know, you get into the Power Ranger vehicles, and there are vehicle stages that are sort of played behind the back, and actually like sort of like a Star Fox level. You're sort of on rails going through a level, things coming at you, you're shooting them and everything. And then there are also levels where you are in the giant Megazord robot, and you're having to battle the giant monsters and everything. So if you've ever seen 5 seconds of Power Rangers footage, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so those are played again from a first person perspective. So like you inside the robot, and there's a bit of kind of punch out, I guess, to the combat in those sections. You know, you get a pretty big hint that this character is about to attack you. So you have to dodge off to the left or right, and then come back and counter attack them and everything.
That's for like the Megazord sections?
Yeah.
The N64 Power Rangers game has a similar mode, or like part of the story as well.
Well, I mean, this game is really trying to look like a 16-bit game, right? Like those Turtle games. It's really trying to have that look. So I don't know. It's pretty fun. I just don't think it's doing enough to separate it from when you have things like Absalom and you have things like Shredder's Revenge, which I do think is better, at least of what I've played so far. You know, you have things like Streets of Rage 4. There's just so many good ones of these right now that unless you've played through all of those, it's hard to give a recommendation for this unless you're just a die-hard Power Rangers fan. And even then, I think part of what hurts this is it doesn't have it doesn't have any of the voice actors. And I realized a few of the actors have passed away, and that wouldn't be possible. But like you could get replacement voice actors and stuff. I think that would really help the experience because it was a TV show, and so much of that personality, right, comes from that.
That was actually my one question. Was like, is Johnny Young Bosch still the Red Ranger?
I mean, it is based on those actors. Right. So like when you do see those characters without their helmets on, you know, like they're probably distinct enough so that they legally don't have to pay them any money, but like also similar enough that, you know, you can see the connection there. And again, I imagine there is there's some weird, like, I would say the one thing that they do in this that's kind of interesting is because it is time travel, at the end of some of the levels, there'll be like this time crystal that pops out, and you have to beat up a bunch of enemies, and then you have to attack this time crystal. And when you attack it enough, it rewinds time, and then you have to battle all those enemies again. Ooh. And so it's kind of an excuse to just basically have a giant like horde section where you're just battling an endless supply of enemies until you can wear down that crystal and destroy it. And, you know, so they're trying to do fun, innovative things with it. They're trying to mix up the formula. I don't think either the Megazord sections or the sort of piloting sections, I don't think either of those are as good as the side-scrolling beat-em-up combat.
That was the bit that got me excited.
Yeah, I mean,
it was like that sounded so interesting.
That is what is interesting when you watch the trailer for this game. Those little sections, and I just don't think they're ever as good as you want them to be.
So sad.
So yeah, if you're a big Power Rangers fan, I would recommend it. If you're not, it's a little harder to recommend the game. All right, well, let's move on to the news. So the big news is that this week, the Super Mario Galaxy movie came out. This is the second of the animated Mario movies, and it made $372 million worldwide in its first 5-day weekend, because it opened on Wednesday through Sunday.
It opened so early.
You mean as far as opening Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That surprised me. I don't really think of the limit as being Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some movies do this. Usually they do it over a holiday weekend, which I guess it was for Easter. So, you know, a lot of families are together and spending time, want something to do. So it makes a lot of sense to open this. But $370 million, you know, that puts it well on its way to hitting that $1 billion mark. I think the first one ended up around $1.5 billion. You know, this is one of those situations where you see this and you go, okay, well, they just green-lighted the third film, basically, from this opening weekend.
Oh, didn't they have like a teaser for Star Fox?
Well, Star Fox is in the movie.
Yeah, but like, aren't they building to a Star Fox movie now?
I think that's the assumption.
Yeah, I mean,
because everything needs to set up a whole universe.
Well, the first movie, right, introduced Donkey Kong, so there's a lot of people who assume that's setting up a Donkey Kong movie. The first movie also hints at Luigi's Mansion, so some people have assumed that's setting up. I mean, you know, who knows? Like, I mean, when they teased that Star Fox was in this movie, I think a lot of people were like, okay, well, clearly they're setting up a Smash Brothers universe where they're going to have all these characters come together in a film eventually and, you know, do something very similar to what Marvel has done. I just don't think Illumination, the studio that makes this, I don't think they have the numbers to do, you know, all these animated movies while they're also doing the Minions and all those sorts of movies as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing about Marvel is nowadays they put out like 3 movies a year.
Right.
Right? Because Disney can just do that. But I don't know if, an animated film is just going to be like harder to make.
Right.
And more like time intensive. if they could even do one a year, that would be
Right.
impressive and like a big stretch. But I mean, if they're making $1 billion per movie, maybe they can expand a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they have a new Minions movie coming out this summer, but I mean, again, I assume is Universal Studios who owns them. I assume they would like to have some of their original properties that they develop, and not just go fully into Nintendo.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because they don't own Nintendo. Disney owns Marvel at this point.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers owns DC, so they can kind of exploit that as much as they want. And they're getting all the benefits, right? The video game sales, the merchandise sales, Universal is not getting the significant portion of that. I still haven't seen that movie. Probably will at some point, hopefully in the next week. So maybe on next week's podcast, we'll talk about that. Let's see. MindsEye, everybody's favorite 2025 release, the game that was going to revolutionize video games. They are currently working on an additional mission that will be added onto the game. This is my understanding will come via patch, not like DLC that's being charged for. And that
would be hilarious, though.
Well, I don't think they could now that they've told what it's about. Yeah. But I would not have been surprised. Other than I don't think anybody will pay for MindsEye DLC at this point.
Based on, I'll let you finish the story, but based on what the
I don't know much about MindsEye. I haven't been keeping up.
If they were charging for it.
Yeah, so like for people who don't remember, I haven't listened to past episodes. MindsEye was the game that when former Grand Theft Auto developer behind it, and when this game came out, there was so much negative reaction to the game when it launched. And I don't think that was really in the lead up to it, other than people were kind of skeptical of the game leading up to launch. But like almost immediately once the game launches, very negative backlash against it. It was sort of pitched as an open world game similar to a Grand Theft Auto. But
when you connected it to Grand Theft Auto, my brain connected, the synapses fired, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember this one. Oh, wow.
Yeah. But, like, actually, there's not a whole lot to do in the open world, so you're really just going from mission to mission to mission. There's not a whole lot to do in between the missions. So, anyways, there was this huge backlash. After the backlash and after the disappointing sales and everything at launch, people within the company came out and said, hey, we were sabotaged. People sabotaged the launch of this game. And people kind of were like, well, who sabotaged it? Like, what does that mean? Because do you mean that the media did this? Do you mean that another developer did this? They have never clarified that. So this new mission, they're saying, will provide evidence that they are going to eventually also use in court against these so-called saboteurs of MindsEye. But they're going to present it as a mission within the game first, which is so insane. Like
their lawyers are just like, no.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing is, once you put this out there, right? Like the people that you're suing can use any material in this game as counter to your suit. So like any statements you put into this, like anything that you have characters say, like, oh, they did this. This is something that's admissible in court at that point.
Mm-hmm. I'm dying for the argument that you cannot use rap lyrics in court brought up in this trial.
Yeah, like, so I don't know where this, this seems like such an insane thing. And like, I think you're right, Mario. I think at some point their lawyers are freaking out going, please don't do this. Please stop. This will not go well. Or maybe the lawyers are like, we don't care. We're getting paid.
Yeah, that's also fair.
Not to like attack lawyers, but like maybe they're like, hey, don't do this. And they're like, no, this will be fine. They're like, fine.
There's only so much they can do.
The cash is still green as long as they have it to pay.
Yeah, so that new mission will be out sometime soon. I just don't know if there's enough people who own MindsEye, like outside of the gaming press, who I suppose will report on this.
Yeah, that might be one of those this feels like one of those games that's just like constantly on sale. But maybe not.
It's not. I've checked a few times
because that's one is like it's like $5. Like sure, like just for morbid curiosity.
It feels like one of those games that should be 10 or less by this point already. And I think the last time I looked, it was still selling full price.
Wow.
To who?
Gross.
Like I don't know.
Gross.
Mario, do you want to take this next story? Because I think you were kind of following this.
Sure. So there's a streamer that I watch. His name is Dan Giesling. And he was talking yesterday during his stream, and in his title, he had banned on TikTok. And it got brought up.
This was like a stream on Twitch.
Yeah, this was his usual Twitch stream. So he streams on Twitch, he streams on YouTube, like co-streams, and then he would stream on TikTok as well. And basically, according to like the command that you can put in, his explanation for why he got banned on TikTok for 6 months was for gambling. And he was playing the game Racoin, which Justin talked about last week, I think.
Yeah.
And another one called Scritchy Scratchy, which is like a idle scratcher, like lotto scratchers game. Which, you're not like buying tickets or spending money. It's a game just like any other. You make in-game money by washing dishes, and you use that money to buy scratchers. So he was banned for 6 months on TikTok. And the funny thing was, those were the things that were considered gambling, but the Counter-Strike loot crates that he had been streaming for however long, those were fine. Which was like objectively gambling.
Yo, I've been following the whole loot crates and gambling in games and the selling of the skins since I was in like high school. That has been terrifying and ongoing for so long now that it feels so normalized.
Yeah, I mean, we just kind of expect it, but there's a reason why it's been banned in a number of different like European countries.
And it's like it makes me think of Balatro, especially because the way that you were describing this, it doesn't seem like this is actually a game where you can gamble with real life money, is it?
No.
It's crazy to me that sometimes the games that get gone after are the ones that are innocent.
Yeah, not as far as I've seen.
Okay.
I mean, you played Racoin. I know outside of buying the game, that's about it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any DLC or anything at this point.
Yeah.
If you can't cash back out, it's not really gambling. I understand that they might be worried about the aesthetics of gambling.
Yeah.
But it feels like some people are more worried about the aesthetic than the actual act in a crazy way.
That's all it is, right? Is like, this is a game where you're scratching off lotto tickets. That's gambling. It's like, no, not really, but
like
sure.
The power of that as art.
Oh,
right?
Sure.
Like,
no, yeah. Like
we should have that as a thing to communicate that experience.
I get what what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Like I understand. Choir over there. I get it.
But yeah, it's just one of those things that he seems to be pretty like whatever about it. I don't think TikTok is nearly his like main source of viewership or probably income, but
it bugs
it's just
me
like
the
it was,
targets that get picked. Sometimes.
Yeah, it was one of those things that it was just like all you can do is laugh because of how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's weird. So, like, you and I had talked about, like, well, how is this even being flagged in the first place? Is this using AI to flag this? Because any person who would see this would go, well, this is obviously not gambling, no more than, like, playing a video game of poker is gambling.
Dude, the Super Mario Brothers 2 slot machine. You better watch out, man.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
they took the gaming corner out of Pokemon.
Right, like
in the remakes.
I mean, is the slot machine in Super Mario Brothers 2 gambling? Well, it is a slot machine.
You do put a coin in there, and you get lives out of it.
That's true, or you don't. Or you in don't. Some cases.
So true. So true.
I mean, so in like, what is the issue with this?
SMB3, Toad's got the 3-card Monty.
Right. But I mean, like I wonder, like I would be interested because we've seen this before with Balatro, right? Yeah. Like what is the actual concern? Is it that it is recreating gambling? Because if that's the issue, so many games have some form of gambling in them, right? And obviously, as you pointed out, like the loot boxes is actual real gambling, right? Because you are paying money for
especially
blind
when you
boxes.
can resell the content.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like when you can resell the content, it's real life gambling.
Right. So we could talk about something like the Madden Ultimate Team, right? Where like there's actual, or FIFA Ultimate Team, there's real money involved with that. There's been crimes committed, people like hacking accounts and stuff.
I mean, they let something like Counter-Strike. I mean, some of those like guns and stuff like that, those skins go for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
It's real money.
So, yeah, it's an odd story, but I know I had sent this to the group. It was either Monday or yesterday. Yeah. Because like I said, I was watching his stream and I was like, wow, okay, that's something. I guess I could see the concern being because it's using the aesthetic and it's presenting this in like a harmless way. If kids are seeing this, because kids are the most impressionable people in the history of time, and they're like, oh, I saw a game with the scratcher or something similar, so I want to do that too. And it's like, that seems flimsy, but like that to me is the logic that would maybe make the most sense in terms of like stating a concern. Otherwise, I have no idea what the concern would be.
I hear you. The thing that kills me is that it's like we have so many games that are just like, you could just gamble for realsies. But the one where it's like, man, it kind of looks like you're gambling. That's our problem.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, the immediate point is like, well, but you're a raccoon in this.
Right. I mean, you're a raccoon doing coin pushers, right? Which we have in every like Chuck E. Cheese,
and Buster's,
like around the country, right? Like so, like this is not something that is like taboo, like for children to interact with, and
it's not like we're not being advertised gambling all the time.
Yeah,
right. So like,
is there a place in town that doesn't have gaming written on it?
Oh, I was thinking about like every advertisement for
sports betting online too. But even in real life,
sure.
Is there a bar in town that doesn't have a slot machine?
Well, that's in Illinois.
Yeah, that's specific to Illinois. But I do get the point that you're making.
I see it more and more. I was seeing more coming into Florida too before I left.
I think the issue with this is just the clarity of like what is the issue and like where is that line. And I think if they're going to do this, and like I don't, I have no stake in this particular streamer. It's not somebody I watch, but I think if you're going to do this, then that line needs to be extremely clear to people. Like what constitutes gambling. When is it problematic, and why do we think that this is problematic? Because if this were, if people were streaming like real online poker matches on TikTok, I could see them having an issue with that. Like people are really betting money, like, that runs afoul of all sorts of laws, interstate commerce and everything. Okay, get that. But like when it's a game, and particularly something like this, that's a single player experience, right? This is not something you're even doing online, even if it's not for real money. I think that's just way too confusing for the audience. And I think particularly problematic is it hurts these sorts of games, right? Like it hurts games like Balatro and Ratcoin and the Scratchy, because, one of the things we talk about all the time is discoverability of these indie games. And how is anybody going to find them out if essentially they're shadow banned from being streamed on these major platforms?
Yeah, exactly.
One of my favorite games for the past 5 years was Fear and Hunger. And that's a game that you cannot stream at base on Twitch. Or at least you probably shouldn't be.
There are mods that make it
at base.
streamable.
That's sure. Yeah. Sorry. Like without
I
mods.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Like there's a whole community that has made mods to make that a streamable game, right?
Yeah. Well, all right. Moving on. No Man's Sky has a new patch out. This brings it up to version 6.3. And they have added a new Xeno Arena. And the Xeno Arena allows you to... So as part of this larger part of the game now, you can capture small animals, and then you can battle them via this holographic board game when you get back to your ship, which looks suspiciously an awful lot like Pokemon. And so there are actually like leagues. You can move up in the leagues and earn, I don't think they call them badges, but you can earn badges as you move up in the leagues. So basically they've inserted Pokemon into No Man's Sky.
Yeah, that game just keeps going.
Well, like two things I think that are kind of interesting about that. One, we just last week on the podcast talked about how Nintendo's patent of battling creatures that you've captured against each other was struck down. And this comes out a week after that, which sounds like they were just waiting on that decision.
These two things are not connected at all.
The second thing is, like No Man's Sky, like speaking about a game, how does it finance itself continuously? Like all of this is free DLC. Like ever since that game came out, everything that they have released for that game, at least as far as I know, has always been free DLC.
Are they owned by Sony? I can't remember.
No, they are not owned by Sony.
Okay.
Sony was involved with the publishing of this game.
Okay. I knew that Sony had something to do with it, but I was trying to figure out how they're backing it at this point because I don't understand how they're surviving it.
Well, I mean, the game, so if you don't remember, No Man's Sky, when it originally came out, was not at all really what they had pitched to people. People were very mad. People were asking for, their money back, refunds on the game when they had purchased it. And they have set about over the years of patching this game to it got up to what they had originally pitched and now gone well beyond what they originally pitched with it.
I've been very impressed with what they've done with it. I haven't played it, but like honestly, at this point I'm about ready to buy it.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's really interesting, right, is how are they continuing to fund development? Now, they are working on a new project. They were developing, I forget the title of it, but it was a role-playing game that was going to take place on a whole planet. They would have modeled an entire planet for it. But like with this game, like it's almost, it's being financed entirely by like new sales of it. Like going on some, years later, people are still buying new copies of this game. And, like it's kind of amazing. It's kind of amazing how much this game has grown and evolved since its original release, from like one of the biggest disappointments I can recall to like now one of the biggest successes. So I don't know, Mario, you're a Pokemon fan. Does this interest you in any way?
No, not really. I've never done No Man's Sky. I know so little about it other than like it is maybe the true success story of a game that had such a miserable beginning.
Yeah, at this point, the story of it alone has me interested.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know nothing other than it. I didn't hear anything about this. I'm interested to look it up just to see what it looks like. But no, I like Pokemon, but I'm not like going to run out and check it out anytime soon.
You don't need Pokemon and everything?
I don't. I barely play the Pokemon games I own.
I've given up on Pokemon proper at this point.
I mean, I think that is part of it, right? Like with this is, hey, let's just stick Pokemon in everything, and I think that's the danger that a game like this runs into, of sort of being, having everything stuffed into it, but not really being a master of any of it. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see this. I do own No Man's Sky. I don't really want to play Pokemon in it. So this probably won't draw me back into playing a whole lot. But
have you seen the creatures? Are they cool?
They look like the sort of alien monsters that are already in the game.
I don't know what they look like. I haven't paid much attention to the game, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, look at the trailer for this afterwards. Yeah. I think, they didn't particularly like stand out to me in the way that Pokemon kind of stand out. Or
that's like the number one thing that I want.
Yeah.
Is I want them to be cool.
I don't know if these monsters. So one thing I didn't quite understand looking at it, and granted I didn't go into a huge amount of depth, were there like a set number of monsters, or everything in that game is procedurally generated? So like the worlds and the creatures and everything on it. And so I don't know if these that you're battling are being procedurally generated, in which case there would be an unlimited number of these monsters to collect and fight.
I'll be honest, they don't look bad.
Yeah.
I'm like looking them up. They're not horrible. They're not what I want, but they're not like atrocious.
Yeah. I mean, I think the game itself looks really good now.
Yeah,
they've done tons of work on it.
Looks it's a different game.
Okay. So this next story is of interest to about 10 people, but I am one of them, so I'm going to talk about it. They have announced a mission, or Impossible Mission 3. It is coming out May 18th, 38 years after Impossible Mission 2, and it is getting released for the Commodore 64. Not also for the Commodore 64. It is getting released for the Commodore 64. It is a Commodore 64 game coming out 38 years later.
Do you still have your Commodore 64?
I actually do have my Commodore 64. And the thing that's like kind of really wild about this, I was like, oh, well, that's neat. They're going to put a version on Steam. And so far I've heard nothing. You can buy a copy of this and run it in an emulator on your computer if you want to do that. But like they have gotten the license from Epix, which I don't even know what Epix is this anymore at this point. Like, are they just an IP holder at this point? I can't remember the last time I've seen the name Epix on any game. But if you don't know what Impossible Mission is, the original Impossible Mission was a title for the Commodore 64. It got ported to lots of other places, including the Sega Master System. The sequel got ported even to more places, including the NES. But the original Impossible Mission was very notable at the time because you basically had a sort of semi-open world environment. You were in this giant base complex, and you had to explore it and collect the different parts of documents and everything that you needed, and eventually escape from it. And so you were going room to room, and each room was like a little bit of a puzzle with robots and things that you had to get around, and you would have to search through different background decorations to find these pieces that you were looking for. And, so at the time it was really sort of innovative in how open of an environment it was. It was really notable for the animation in the game. So when you would jump, you would do a somersault in the air, and that was all like animated really fluidly, particularly for that time period. So think sort of like Prince of Persia and its animation at that time. And so it's really weird to see this game coming back now. I think even weirder is the way that they're releasing it, because I would say throw this in an emulator and release this on Steam, because you'll actually find some people. I'm not sure how big the like homebrew market for Commodore 64 is now. I do know people are still making games on it. But this is probably the most high profile game I've seen in years come out for it. So yeah, almost 40 years later, we're getting a new Impossible Mission game. Which again, like I said, excites almost no one, but I think it's pretty neat. This next story is quite a bit sadder. Yoshihisa Kishimoto, has died at 64 years old. If you don't know that name, then you certainly know some of the games that he's been responsible for. So he is credited as one of the co-creators of the Kuni-kun series. So that is most notably like the original Renegade, and then games that followed up in that sort of style of Renegade, like River City Ransom. The original Renegade is really influential for what, I've already talked about on this show, your side-scroller beat-em-ups, right? So before there is Final Fight, before there is Double Dragon, before there is the Ninja Turtle arcade game, there was Renegade. And basically every side-scrolling beat-em-up has taken some inspiration from that game. If you're not familiar with River City Ransom, it basically takes that game and kind of builds it into an open world sort of setting where you're buying upgrades for your character and everything as you explore the environment, which for the NES era felt like the biggest game in the world. You play it now and it's actually a really small game, like most NES games are. But at the time, that game was super influential, and I feel like developers have been chasing that game for decades since, trying to make a spiritual sequel to River City Ransom. Probably most famously recently, the River City Girls games have been really popular. So he did those. He eventually went on and did Double Dragon, which today happens to be the 38th anniversary of the release of Double Dragon. So there's that year 38 again. Very good year. He also worked on Road Blaster, or as it was released in the U.S., Road Avenger. That was a Laserdisc based game. It eventually came out on the Sega CD, which is, one of those in the style of a Space Ace or Dragon's Lair Laserdisc games where you are basically hitting a direction when it pops on screen and everything, and that's basically the extent of your control and interaction with the game, but it was a very cool looking one. He worked on Super Dodgeball, which I feel like has sort of been forgotten over the years, but at the time was a very beloved game. And then Mario, he worked on what many people consider to be one of the best wrestling games ever made, WWF WrestleFest.
Is that the one with those, like the arcade game that had like the, I don't know what the right word is, like the Mortal Kombat style, like,
No.
Okay.
This is the one that
I'm glad you knew what I was talking about.
Yeah, no, I the one that's more like a fighting game,
yeah.
Right? Yeah, no, this is the one that predates that.
Okay.
And this one is much more of a traditional wrestling game, but it was a very like sort of easy to pick up and play, and it's one that's been copied in recent years. What is the game called? Retro Wrestling something. I think it's RWR is it's on Steam. Okay. But like they've actually tried to copy the look and the gameplay of it. That game actually has like officially licensed characters. I think like Macho Man is in that. I think Hawk and Smash are in that, officially licensed. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people look at that as one of the best wrestling games ever made. It certainly from that era, I think, stands out as being like one of the most playable. Sure. But yeah, just a huge career, just a huge number of games that he had a hand in, sort of defining an entire genre with the side-scrolling beat-em-up, or as it sometimes is called, a belt scroller. When you think he worked on Renegade and River City Ransom and Double Dragon, like these are, huge games.
Yeah. I mean, iconic, foundational to like those genre, to their respective genre. Right.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that I think this one, I feel like there was one recently as well, where it's like these, developers and game creators who were so foundational of like I don't know, you want to call it like the renaissance of games in the 1980s, like are getting to that point where we're going to start seeing them, pass with more and more frequency. And that's always sad to think about. I mean, obviously normal and expected, but, we're just kind of getting to that point in time.
So the game I was thinking of is Retromania Wrestling.
Oh, okay.
So I couldn't
definitely, looking up some of the images from WrestleFest, it definitely is using that same aesthetic.
Yeah, so obviously WrestleFest, I don't think there's any official way to play that game. It would probably be really difficult now with the licensing for the wrestlers.
Like Fightcade or something like that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yes, you can play and emulate it, definitely. But if you're wanting a new game like that, Retromania Wrestling is actually pretty cool. I actually think it's neat and worth trying. But yeah, Mario, I think you bring a good point. Like, we're losing that generation of developers.
Yeah.
Right? When you look at him and he's 60 years old and, certainly
Which is still young. I mean, 64 is,
Yeah.
Feels on the younger side still.
Have y'all seen H Bomber Guy's Oof video?
No.
Oh, I really liked it. It talks a little bit about this. The inception of it is just like, who made the oof sound from Roblox? And where did it originally come from? And it comes from an older game, and it talks a lot about capital owners and how they will claim the labor of the people under them, right? And how there's a drift of creative ownership, right?
Yeah.
Towards a certain direction. And in the end of it, he talks a lot about how we are in the point where the beginning of games, if we do not preserve the history, it will die on us and we will never be able to get it back.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole lot with preservation of game history and that sort of stuff.
Huge.
And I think when you start talking about developers like this, right? Like there's traditionally Japanese developers were very secretive. They did not let their developers often even be known by their real names, which is why when you play old NES games and stuff, the names in the credits are made up names and sound made up.
One of the things that H Bomber Guy talks about is specifically how I think it was on Street Fighter, some of the women that did the sound couldn't put their names on it, right?
Right.
And that then contributes to how gaming was thought to be a masculine thing because the women that worked on it weren't recognized.
Right. Yeah.
And then
the composer for Street Fighter 2 is a woman.
Yes.
So I think looking at this now, thinking about, you're right, Mario, this is young at 64, but then you look back, right? The people who were making games a little before in the 1970s, right? Those are the people who are getting up into their 80s and older in a lot of cases, and we're losing that generation.
Yeah, it's Miyamoto might be the most easily name recognized one, but
sure.
Somebody like Kishimoto who maybe isn't as readily known to the general or more casual fan, but his work has still probably touched or influenced a lot of the work that they of the games that they play now or still enjoy.
Yeah, I mean something like River City Ransom is one of the early examples of the RPGing of other genres, right? Which is something that we just sort of accept as common today, but taking another genre and inserting RPG elements into that genre, right?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the River City Girls, certainly has that immediate connection, but I think Yakuza, I think you could look at absolutely is super close to, the same, no, but you can make those connections pretty easily.
Yeah, it's maybe not a straight line connecting them, but there is a line connecting those two games.
Yeah.
Right? Certainly the people who make Shenmue, which eventually becomes, Yakuza, right? You can start seeing okay, this idea of Shenmue, which was originally pitched, right, as a sort of third person beat 'em up, but also you're going to have jobs to do to earn money to like upgrade your character.
This open world, just this town that you're sort of navigating. Absolutely.
Is Shenmue worth going back to now? I hear a lot from Super Eye Patch Wolf.
Oh,
I mean,
it's rough.
It's
That's what I've heard.
It's a game of its time.
That's what I've heard.
But I mean, it's one of those, like, when it came out, it's probably one of the most like technically impressive games when it came out at the time.
I think it's interesting to look at that game as a precursor to the Grand Theft Auto games, the
makes sense.
The 3D Grand Theft Auto games. And at that time, it was like Mario said, it was doing like really innovative stuff. And but I don't think that game. I think the problem with Shenmue is its legacy. Like it doesn't have that legacy, right? Like it was trying to do what Grand Theft Auto eventually did, and so now everybody points to Grand Theft Auto. Almost nobody points to Shenmue as like the big influence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
which is fair, I think, to a large degree.
And I think the legacy of Shenmue, particularly when we look at Sega, is Yakuza.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I think what Justin's saying, like that might be the most interesting reason to go back is like how this maybe doesn't get the recognition that it probably deserves, but paved the way for some of the, most popular franchises in present day gaming.
Yeah. Just to get back to the topic, obviously, Kishimoto, we, our condolences to family, friends, obviously, former coworkers, somebody with that long and big of a career has touched a lot of people within the industry. Again, even if not directly, then indirectly, who were, inspired by the games that he made over the years. And even, at this point, looking back at a career that long, it's not just the games he made, it's also the games that were originally influenced by him, people being influenced by those, right?
Sure.
So it's that sort of Kevin Bacon effect, right? Like, even if you haven't played Double Dragon, you have played some game that's been influenced by Double Dragon at some point. So I saw this headline today, and this is not funny, but it is one of those, I can't believe we're going through this again. So there is a game called The Cube Save Us, which is maybe the worst title for a game I've heard in a while. But it is another live service game. It is an extraction shooter in the style of like every game that feels like coming out, but certainly things like Marathon and Ark Raiders.
Do you guys like Ark? My friend plays it.
I never played it. Haven't really watched it.
Yeah, no, I haven't played much.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you finish before I say something silly.
But it was another one of those. It is now being shut down less than a month after launch. I believe the game actually was released 3 weeks ago, and they announced that next month it will be shut down. We've just gone through this with some games. Obviously, everybody points to Concord as like the sort of like biggest example of this.
What was the one that just High Guard? Is that the name of that game?
Okay. Yeah, High Guard.
Is that the one where they refunded people, or is that this one?
No, I think High Guard they were refunding.
Concord did as well.
Yeah. Okay,
I think that's probably
at least they're giving people back what they put into it.
Yeah, I had not heard about this game at all. I was going to say, is this based off of the Canadian horror films?
The Cube?
The Cube, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be sick. This game would have had more recognition if it was, to be honest.
Is that the one where it's like, where they're going in between the rooms?
Yeah.
Okay, I have the... I was going to say I was only interested if it was a continuation of Portal.
I saw that movie, The First Cube, on a date.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
What a weird experience on a date.
What a movie to pick.
That's
I think clearly you picked that movie.
No, it was her choice, Mario. It was
right. Justin wants to set the record straight. I did not choose it.
It was her going, how about this? And I was like, I don't know anything about that. Sure, let's see that. And then both of us coming out of it going, well, that was an experience.
All right.
I'm pretty sure I saw it in the dark at 2 a.m. in my apartment a couple of years back.
Yeah, I watched it with a friend, I think when I was in high school. I think we watched the first one and the third one. I don't know if we watched the second one.
More?
There are 3 of them.
Were the others good?
I believe the second one is Hypercube,
Yeah.
where the rooms don't move like adjacent. They can like move anywhere.
Yeah.
And then the third one is about the people running the cube.
Ooh, okay, that is interesting.
Is Hypercube the third one? Isn't there one
Maybe.
that's like Cube Square
I
or
don't
something? Yeah.
I just said I'm aware of 3 of them.
There-
Those are the
yes.
3 that I'm aware.
I think
Those are
I
the
have seen
premise of-
3 films.
Okay.
But there may be more.
I'll have to
very
check out the other
possible.
2 soon.
I mean, sure.
Mario, like, I'm not sure that it's worth it.
I mean, that first.
Dude, that movie came out the year I was born.
They're not new movies, that's
man.
for sure.
I didn't realize
me
it was
so
that
old.
old, though. I knew it was 90s, but it was the year I was born. And I was like,
that film is good. That
It is.
original Cube is a good film. The sequel is not so
I
much.
can't remember the twist. There was a twist at the end, right?
Yeah, I don't want to.
I can't remember.
I don't wanna
wanna
spoil a
it either. I
30-year-old
just can't remember
movie.
what it was.
It was about they figure out how the cube moves.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do remember that it moved.
Yeah. All right. Last story here, real quick. Jellicoe, who is a name that you don't hear much anymore, is putting out 2 collections, the Jellicoe Sports Collections.
The I can't even say Massachusetts Leather Company.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I guess it's Connecticut, not Massachusetts.
That's a really good joke, Mario, that nobody's going to get.
It would be Connecticut.
Okay, I don't understand the joke.
It's Coleco is the stands for Connecticut Leather Company. So
okay.
Jolico would be the Connecticut. Yeah. Anyways,
Can't even make it work.
I had been
The
distracted
Japan Leather Company.
Okay,
there you go.
Sure.
Anyways, Jellicoe is putting out 2 collections, one for Goal and one for Bases Loaded. These actually both focus on 2 games, but they each include multiple versions of those games. So, it might be like the Super Nintendo version and the 8-bit version of the game. Anyways, Goal 2 from the NES and Super Goal 2 from the Super Nintendo are part of the Goal collection. And then for Bases Loaded 2, the second season, which I just have always loved the title of that game, the innocence of making a sports game in the mid 80s or late 80s. And we're not going to pump one of these out every single year with just a new roster update. This is the second season. We're giving it a dramatic title and everything. And then, quickly realizing we're just going to make a ton of these. And Super Bases Loaded too, for the Super Nintendo. I don't know what the market for these are at this point. I don't know. Bases Loaded was never a good game. RBI Baseball or Baseball Stars are the really great baseball games.
SNES game, right? Yeah. I know one of them was not very good. Ken Griffey Jr. on the SNES as well.
Well, I was thinking NES.
Oh, NES,
when
okay.
those games originate. But yes, Ken Griffey Jr. on the Super Nintendo is good. Super Baseball Simulator 1000 is also really good on the Super Nintendo. But I was thinking on the original NES. Those games were never particularly good. It's never been a beloved franchise. Goal maybe more so, though it never had a huge following in the U.S., but it seems like the sort of game that was probably really popular in Europe, sort of like Sensible Soccer, which never made much inroads here in the U.S. But anyways, they're putting these out. I think it's cool that something like that's coming out. I just don't know what the audience for it is.
To show how not interested I am, I keep looking down and seeing BL and thinking that it's
Boys
Love. I keep thinking that it's when is the comic but a video game? I'm blanking on the no, not graphic novel.
It's a graphic novel that was turned into a video game.
There's a word for that. Webcomic.
Oh, okay.
Or no, there's another. I'm blanking on the word. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
That's okay.
But I keep going, oh, that's cool, and then being disappointed, and like, and I'm like a 6 on the Kinsey.
Yeah, so that does it for news. So that leaves us with our big question. Our big question, since there was a lot of news about side-scrolling beat-em-ups, if you could turn any IP, any intellectual property into a side-scrolling beat-em-up, like Double Dragon, what IP would you choose?
Dating sim. That was the word I was looking for. Sorry.
No, that's fine. There's a... I think it's coming out in May. There's a He-Man and the Masters of the Universe game coming out.
I was gonna, when you were talking about it, I was like, did they ever make a He-Man one? But I feel like we probably talked about that at some point as well.
Yeah, they are putting out a He-Man one. There's actually a fan-made He-Man game that's actually pretty good. But like the new He-Man game they have coming out, it looks interesting.
I mean, if they're doing He-Man, can they do She-Ra and the Princesses of Power?
She-Ra is in this new He-Man game.
Yeah, but is it the version from the recent Netflix show?
No.
That's what I want. I want the gay one.
Okay.
There you go.
Like, let me be clear about what I want. I don't want people to misunderstand. I want the gay one.
Okay, so is that your pick?
Yeah.
She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, the Netflix series, right?
Yeah.
That's the one you're interested in.
I loved that one.
Not the original 1980s.
I don't know. Maybe that one was gay too, but that one's not the one that I watched.
It is not. It is not as obviously gay as the Netflix.
What I'm saying is that I
is.
want to kill people as Double Trouble.
Then it sounds like you know exactly what you want.
Yeah,
You
I
know
know
the
what I'm
version you
about. Did you expect that not to be the case?
I'm just saying.
All right, cool. Mario, how about you?
Yeah, in terms of games that already exist, I'm kind of surprised they never made
It could be a movie.
Sure. I'm surprised they never made like a side-scrolling beat-em-up Kingdom Hearts game.
Yo.
There's
They
already
made a card game, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's the card game that's still an RPG effectively, but that combat, is pretty mashy,
Right.
And so it feels like that would fit.
Kind of surprising, they never made one of those Game Boy Advance games.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that. Yeah.
And then the other one that came to mind that I think would be interesting just because you could have a whole cast of characters as well would be like Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah. They did.
Yo, I could see an Absalom style Game of Thrones one.
They did that Telltale game, right? Of Game of Thrones, but
I think there's been a few different Game of Thrones games, but I don't know if I'm thinking specifically 16-bit style.
Right. Yeah.
Using the art style of the multiverses, Game of Thrones characters, something like that. That's meant to be cartoony.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the one that I feel more strongly about would probably be Kingdom Hearts, just because they've done so many different things with that franchise that feels like something that would fit well in terms of gameplay style, and you can have that be another little side story that's relevant for some reason.
Yeah, and I was trying to... Yes, that's relevant for some reason.
Isn't that the story of Kingdom Hearts? Just everything relevant for
I mean, they
reason?
made a freaking rhythm game that is...
God. We want our story to be
canonical to the
as
story.
inaccessible as possible, please.
I was trying to think, has there ever been a game involving Disney characters in that style? I mean, there's been tons of Disney video games over the years, and even 2D action games and everything. But I was trying to think.
Kids? Not Disney.
I don't know. That's not Disney, but
Yeah.
I had a side-scrolling Spy Kids game.
Oh,
on,
cool.
Game Boy Advance when I was a kid. I actually loved it. It was for the third game.
Very cool.
It was the game in the game, but in real life.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of Disney platformers.
Right.
I mean, the Lilo and Stitch one, it's a Metal Slug, so it's more
Right.
that run and gun, but similar-ish vibes.
Was that game fun?
It was fine.
I mean, the closest is probably something like Hercules on the PlayStation 1, right? Which is not a side-scrolling beat 'em up, but more of a 3D character action game.
Sure.
Yeah. No.
Did they ever do something in Disney Infinity that would count?
I have no idea.
I mean, that game was all
looked at it.
3D, so...
I don't know, I could see them having like a mini game.
yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know. Just a bit of thought.
Yeah, so I picked, speaking of 3D character action games, and basically a 3D beat 'em up, I had two picks. One was a Buffy the Vampire Slayer one. And so there actually are two games of Buffy that came out during the PlayStation 2 Xbox era. And that first one on the Xbox is actually, they're both good games, but that first one's a really good game. And it's basically a 3D beat 'em up. And so, but I just think like that would translate really well. You know, you can have your different characters you can play as. So you get your Angel and Spike and Buffy.
Yeah, I saw your answer written down, and as I said, as like a recent property, very recent property, doing like a Sinners one, I feel like that could, that would work as well.
That would work.
Just like hordes of vampires, I feel like
Right.
would make for a good beat 'em up style game.
Well, I think one of the reasons I thought Buffy would also work really well is it has such an assemblage of monsters to fight.
Sure.
And one of the problems sometimes with this style of game is, well, who are the enemies?
Yeah, maybe
right?
a little too samey if it's all
Right.
Yeah, that's very fair.
And so Buffy does get you like vampires and demons and, you know, mummies and other monsters and stuff. So, and, you know, there's no like canonical villain in Buffy. So you can kind of like just play around with designs quite a bit.
I guess in Sinners you just have vampires and KKK members.
Yeah. Which, don't get me wrong,
I mean,
would be a lot of fun to beat up for like 7 levels.
yeah, I loved Call of Duty Nazi Zombies because what better thing is there to kill than a zombie Nazi, right? Like no guilt. That's a free kill. Like you don't have to feel guilty about that. Same thing in Sinners.
Yeah. So Buffy seems like a good example of something, you know, an IP that would have a built-in fan base that would get very excited about that. And you could get most of that cast probably back to do voices. Most of them did their voices for the Xbox game, actually, outside of Sarah Michelle Gellar, who was busy doing movies at the time.
I was going to say, I feel like your only hiccup with that would be Joss Whedon, right?
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't own Buffy. He has no rights to it.
Oh, okay.
No?
Well, if that's the case, then yeah, certainly. I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah, he doesn't own it, but because it predates him as well. But anyways.
Well, I mean, he created Buffy. He created the movie. He wrote the original movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. He wrote the original movie. He did not direct it. And then he, you know, was showrunner and creator of the TV series. But
Did the movie come first?
Yes.
I didn't know this. I don't know about the movie at all. I just saw the show.
They actually referenced the movie in the show. It's like sort of canonical in the show. But like anyways, you know, like they were, the news is that recently they were going to do that reboot of it, and he was not involved in any way. I think they did say they talked to him and he gave his blessing, but like he was not involved in any way. So that was one. The other one I was thinking that would make a whole lot of sense is there has to be like some 80s movie franchise that would work really well as
Roadhouse.
one of these. Yeah, Roadhouse would be a good one potentially for it. But what I picked out was The Running Man.
Ooh.
So the original Arnold Schwarzenegger version from the 80s, because you do have the like very colorful bosses for that.
That would actually be peak. I just threw something out.
And, you know, like, so that seems like one that would work really well, that would be unique enough to like feel worthwhile, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of Van Damme and Seagal movies from that era, but like you're just battling generic enemies at some point in those. So something that would feel pretty unique going level to level in the enemies that you're facing. But yeah, that does it for my answer. Well, that also does it for this week's episode. Junara and Mario, I want to thank both of you. I want to thank our listeners who are listening in on this week's episode. As always, you can check out more content by going to our website at salukigames.com.
And yes, Derek, Christina's playing hooky again. We'll speak with her.
Yeah, for real.
If you would like to send in a big question suggestion or just a comment or question for the podcast in general, if you would like to chastise or complain about particular hosts who are playing hooky, you can do that by emailing us at justin.young@siu.edu. That's YOUNG. You can send those emails, and we do read those on the podcast time to time. So do send those out. But otherwise, take care of yourselves. Have a good week. Play something fun, and we will be back soon with another episode.